天听我跟大家讲一讲，唠叨唠叨，然后呢，主要是听大家展示你们的作业的成果。第一节课听我说一说，第二节课大家展示成果为主。我希望我说的快点，尽量少占大家点时间，多给大家点时间展示自己的成果，好吧？尽快的说啊，尽快的说。In this session, I'm going to talk a little bit about radio and television. The mass media became rather very interesting since the advent of the invention of radio and television. The age of radio, the age of television is typical of the age of the second wave of industrial revolution. It was the age of, what was the age about? The first age was about the steam engine. And then the next wave, the next age is about electricity, electronic age, with a series of theoretical and engineering breakthroughs during the second half of the 19th century. It started from the Western world and slowly spread to the other parts of the world. The machines that are driven by electricity is becoming rapidly becoming popular and replacing engines, machineries empowered by steam engines. During that age, the time of electricity, the most widespread and easily felt invention that affects people, human beings on a massive scale was, of course, the technology and the emergence of mass media, enabled by most modern, most up-to-date technology and engineering achievements. First, let's take a look at what radio was about during those old times. This is a very brief, again, very short list, a very brief history on the evolution of the mass media of radio. I trust you have all read about the brief history from the textbook. So let's move on to take a look at some of the main characteristics, main features of the mass media of radio. First of all, radio and its audience. We have to be aware the dividing line, the watershed about the major change of the modern forms of electric mass media is the invention, the onset of television. Before television was invented and popularized, it was radio that dominated the mass media arena. And after television was invented and popularized, then the mass media of radio dramatically changed, transformed into different forms, showing different features. Radio prospered, first of all, by changing the nature of its relationship with its audience. Of course, the relationship change or the transformation of relation between audience and radio, the mass media, refers to what I just said. Before television and after television was invented. The so-called pre-TV radio as network television is today nationally oriented and broadcasting an array of recognizable program formats populated by well-known stars and personalities and consumed in the homes, typically with people sitting around the set. In the old age, maybe not very long after the invention of radio and right before the popularization of TV, people just treated the radio set as nowadays we treat television set. The whole family, parents and children of relatives or friends and close associates get together, sit in front of the radio, and then they tune in to listen to specific programs. The so-called program formats, or let's call it, we can call it, interpret it as program genre or program types. But here they use the word format to refer to the types of programs. So program formats range from all sorts of entertainments, informational, entertainment, educational, you name them. And the post-TV radio has become very different, was showing very different characteristics and traits, such as the trait of being local, being fragmented, being specialized, personal and mobile, you name them. And before TV was invented, the pre-TV radio was characterized also by huge national networks, whereas today's radio is dominated by smaller types, smaller genres, or by a particular sound characteristic of a local TV station. That is, radio has become very local, very fragmented and specialized. Although mass media of radio has transformed dramatically since the advent of the more recent form of mass media, aka TV, still the simple business achievement that radio achieved is still very impressive. Take a look in America alone. Every week, on average, about 250 million people, or about 92% of all American people who are older than 12 years of age, they listen to radios, making radio the American mass medium with the greatest degree of audience reach. This number simply is very, very impressive. Much more impressive than the traditional printed media we have discussed so far, such as magazines, newspapers, printed books, so on. Despite the amazing and impressive achievements of radio, the broadcast radio's audience size has shown no growth since the past few years. Even though there has been not much growth, it's still comparatively much better than the older, more traditional forms of mass media, such as newspaper. The time spent on listening to radios has fallen. It's dropping by an average about a minute a day. If this trend continues, then it could be a huge problem for the mass medium of radio. Although nowadays, what do you hear about the Chinese radio stations? And the most troubling number is for the youth. Young people who tune in, who listen to radios, is in more apparent, more obvious decline. Radio has its own problems, but comparatively speaking, its problem is not as serious as those are experienced by other forms of media, such as the traditional printed media or a TV.